Broadcasting from the Professional Fantasy Football League studios in Marina Del Rey, California, I'm your host, John Hampton. This is PFFL Live. Welcome to the Saturday breaking news edition of PFFL Live. I'm John Hampton. Today we'll look at news from around the league and injury updates heading into Sunday. Then we'll wrap up our show with two interviews. First with Scottsdale's own Wayne's World, who's taking on the #1 power-ranked Scumbaggers. Then, an interview with Dex's Midnight Runners, who are taking on my team, the Sams, and will most certainly be crushed as he's an incompetent gorilla. Breaking news. Starting off with our breaking news section, Thursday night football, the Bears had an offensive meltdown with Jay Cutler looking back to old form. Check out the PFFL Facebook post on #Cutlering. Man, am I starting to feel bad for this guy. I mean, he has an arm, but he's just unable to cut it consistently. Aaron Rodgers only put up 11 points, which is very disappointing for a guy that has such a high price in the auction drafts. Another major piece is the Bears' starting running back, Matt Forte, who suffered a high ankle sprain, leaving Michael Bush a strong candidate for the start next week against a sloppy St. Louis Rams. I'll tell you what, I predict Michael Bush as a breakout player and possible top 5 running back this year. I love the way this guy can get behind his blockers and accelerate into the gap. Plus, he's a durable workhorse. Jermichael Finley could not hang in this week, putting up a measly single point. In fact, the offense for Green Bay in general does not look nearly as potent as it did last year, at least so far against two hard-nosed defenses in the 49ers and the Bears. Greg Jennings sat out this game, Jordy Nelson didn't really develop anything, and exciting Randall Cobb was held in check. Cedric Benson had some big runs but was unable to find pay dirt. I'm not so sure about this guy, he's so hit or miss. Sometimes he goes out there looking lazy and sluggish, but then, when it gets in a good series, he can really become an offensive playmaker. All in all, it was a pretty unexciting Thursday matchup with no real standouts. Let's move on to our PFFL injury update. I'm sure you've all heard it by now, but Bills starting running back Fred Jackson is out for at least 4 weeks with a sprained right ankle. Spiller looked great last week and will carry the torch. He could have a big week against Kansas City. All right, now Calvin Johnson. Megatron owners taking a moment for a sigh of relief. Johnson will be on the field Sunday in a stiff 49ers matchup at Candlestick. Can't wait to watch this game. Next up, both Jeremy Maclin and Deshaun Jackson are listed as questionable on the Eagles. I think both these guys will end up playing, but if you have a matchup involving Michael Vick, LaShawn McCoy, and Brent Selleck, these are injuries to take note of as it could drastically affect your team. Now, Ryan Matthews and Antonio Gates, the Chargers' running back and tight end, will enter Sunday in the game time decision category. It's a 50-50 shot for either one, but I think Matthews sits this one out or has little to do with the offensive game plan, as they can't afford to re-injure him in a struggling offense. This is standard frustration and typical week-to-week status for Gates owners. Get used to it. On to the Panthers, Jonathan Stewart is coming off an ankle injury and Steve Smith is questionable with a sore knee. At this point, Rivera expects both Stewart and Smith to play Sunday against the Saints, though we have to see as they are both listed as iffy. But if they don't go, look for a great matchup and a potential sleeper this week for D'Angelo Williams or Brandon LaFell. Pierre Garçon, who injured his foot last week with his big catch and run, is a game-time decision for Sunday's game against St. Louis. And finally, Daniel Thomas of Miami Dolphins is listed as out with a concussion, leaving a bigger opportunity for Reggie Bush to take advantage of the struggling Oakland Raiders. All right, PFFL fans, now it's time to do our interview segment and hit the phones. First off, Wayne Evans of Team Wayne's World in Scottsdale's Dirty Dale League. Wayne, how do you feel about your team heading into Week 2 against the #1 power-ranked Scumbaggers?
Well, I'm excited and optimistic. It's very early. I like the fact that I'm near the top. I don't think anybody's going to come out and wire this field, so it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Words everybody should live by. Wayne, who's the player you're most excited about on your roster this year?
It's hard to say one. I really like Eli Manning, and Marco Murray is looking very strong. He receives the ball, he runs well, he carries the Cowboys. I think both of those are going to be horses for the rest of the season.
Well, Wayne, always good chatting with you. I think you'll win this matchup. Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt. Who am I kidding? All right, now let's go to Dex's Midnight Runners. Can they hang with me? I think not. Chase, what say you? Do you think Ryan Matthews will hit the field this week? And if so, how will he perform against a tight-run Titans defense?
I'm going to have to say that I definitely think he's going to see the field because he is currently on my fantasy team, and I don't have any other running backs on my bench, which means he either needs to play or I'm totally screwed. So that sort of answers the second part of the question because he is also on my fantasy team, and he's going to kill it this week because I need a lot of points, and I desperately need to win after losing pretty miserably this past week.
Really great strategy you've got going there. So you're 0-1 and you're playing against me, a fantasy god. Are you prepared to be 0-2?
You know, mental preparation is all part of the game. My outlook this week is a little higher than last week. I definitely am not the most technically savvy guy, so I definitely struggled last week trying to figure everything out. So I'm feeling pretty strong about this week. And, you know, despite the fact that I'm going up against a god, mere mortals can do some pretty magical things sometimes.
Sounds like you're going to need a whole lot of magic with this matchup. Thanks a lot, Chase. Folks, I want to remind you to head to the PFFL Facebook tomorrow for the Sunday Photo Smackdown. Upload your Smack Talk photo with the hashtag BeatYou, and you'll have a chance of winning a prize from the PFFL. That's it for the Saturday edition of PFFL Live. I'm John Hampton. Join me Thursday for our PFFL Live preview matchup show. If you have any comments for me, you can follow me at RealJohnHampton on Twitter. For more news, updates, and Smack Talk, visit us at thepffl.com. That's the-pffl.com.
This has been a presentation of the PFFL.